All right, you're watching the Power Hour. I'm your host, DJ Larry Jones, and I have a very special guest joining me today. She's a true trailblazer and inspiration to women everywhere. Not only is she the founder of the first ever women's centric app, the UncoveryApp.com, but she also has an incredible story to share. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lindsay Sutherland Bowl. Lindsay, how are you?
Hi, it's so great to be here. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, doing very well. First off, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this show today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, let's talk about the Uncovery app. Let's start with that. What is that, and what led you to create that app?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, the Uncovery app is a women's empowerment app through the lens of alcohol free living. And it's designed to help us address our emotional connection or our relationship with alcohol. There's so many women that fall into problematic drinking patterns that don't hit rock bottom, but they're but they don't identify with these more traditional pathways. And so what I'm trying to create is a more open narrative about how do we address the problematic relationship and stay true to ourselves in a modern way.
Right, and what inspired you to do this?
Yeah, well, because I used to be a problem drinker. I was one of these women, and I say women, but I mean this obviously applies to everybody.
Right, right,
So many of us are what they would call high functioning. Like somebody with an alcohol problem isn't just the stereotypical person who is not taking care of their family, doesn't hold down a job, all that. 80% of problematic drinkers do have a job, do show up in their communities in important ways. But the problem is we're so busy doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing, we aren't spending the time able to live the lives we want to be living.
yeah, that's so true.
Mhm.
Um, what started you, if you don't mind me asking, what started you to drinking?
You know, it's funny because I do a lot of podcasts, right? And I'm asked this question all the time,
Yeah.
and every time it seems like a new response emerges. And like I had a pretty normal garden variety, lovely upbringing. Like I didn't have a traumatic upbringing at all. But over time and upon reflection, I've learned that I spend way too much time alone, and
Mhm.
I'm okay with being by myself. But too much alone time is too much alone time.
Yeah.
And I think that combined with the pressure that I felt in the career that I lost as a result of being I called it drunk jerk. That was just too much. Too much happened. Too much happened that I didn't understand how to cope with.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And what was the final straw for you? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah. So um, I didn't have a rock bottom, or people would say that my rock bottom was pretty high. And my belief about it is you don't need to hit rock bottom, rock enough will do.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so for me, I just got tired of my own storm that I was creating for myself. And if we're going to get past any kind of problematic behavior, and it could be anything, like it could be drinking, it could be overspending, it could be sex, it could be gambling, it could be porn, it could be like anything. We have to be tired of our own selves and our own behavior in order to make change. And nobody can do that for us until we're ready.
right. Now, let's speak to some people who may be dealing with some alcohol issues and not even know that it's a problem, because a lot of times people do drinking, heavy drinking, and not even realize that it's a serious problem. What
Yeah.
are some, what can we recognize? How can people recognize that their habits are becoming a serious problem?
Right. That's a great question. Because what we want to do is help people before they get to the absolute worst situation.
Yeah.
And common markers that maybe aren't so common, but are themes for people who do have a drinking problem. Waking up at 3 a.m.
Mm,
with a sense of self-loathing, shame, or regret is one. Having more than one place you buy your liquor because you don't want the cashiers to recognize that perhaps you're buying too much booze. Number three, you don't want to take out your recycling because the bottles clank.
yeah.
Number four, your drinking is getting earlier and earlier and earlier in the day. You need to drink more to get the same effect.
Yeah.
You negotiate with yourself. Okay, well, I'm just going to wait until Thursday this week before I drink, and then you go crazy on the weekend. That's the thing, is drinking problems represent in different ways. Some people drink every night. Some people binge drink. Both are problems.
Right. Now, like I said to you earlier, I used to be one of those people.
Yeah.
I used to drink heavy. It was a time in my life where I had to I would go to sleep with a bottle by my bed just to wake up in the morning and grab it and take a swig,
Yeah.
just to get my day started. So that was a nightmare. Now that I'm thinking about it, let's talk about some of the physical and mental risk associated with excessive drinking.
Um, there's been so much research that's come out that no amount of alcohol is safe. And that is not my opinion. That is research and science. No amount of alcohol is safe. So why are we continuing to consume something that causes 14 kinds of illnesses in women, for example,
Right.
or is in some way directly linked? So like, and especially the older we get, the less capable we are to recover so quickly. So not only does it affect our emotional well-being, our mental well-being, our physical well-being, it affects our relationships. If we
It
think
does.
it doesn't affect our kids, it affects our kids.
It does.
Like, and it could be anything. It affects our commitment to the things that we want to do for ourselves. And when we can't get up and go to the gym because we're too busy being hungover, hating ourselves from the night before, that's not how we want to live our lives. So the impact that over drinking over time has on our physical, spiritual, and mental health is enormous. It's enormous.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I want to talk about how can we help people through this time of alcoholism. How would you approach someone who wants to come to your app and need help? How would you approach and help them?
There's two important terms that have evolved, and
Okay.
one of those is alcoholic, and the other is alcoholism.
Mm.
And I just want to offer, if I may, that it's alcohol use disorder and
Hmm.
someone with alcohol overuse. So the reason why it's no longer alcoholism and alcohol use disorder is
Hmm.
because the severity of problematic drinking is on a spectrum. It's not
Mm.
either black or white. There's a whole spectrum of problematic drinking, and so that is either mild, moderate, or severe. And the medical community determines the severity of someone's alcohol use disorder based on a number of criteria. And however many criteria that individual meets, that represents their severity. So it's no longer alcoholism, it's alcohol use disorder. And alcoholic is a term of conventional wisdom, often used in 12-step programming. And within that context, it really works. But if it's taken outside of that context with people who don't identify with more traditional or conventional wisdom about it, it's highly stigmatic. And so we use terms like, so I would say something like, I had alcohol use disorder. So I just want to offer that because it's important to recognize the evolution of the language so that we can reach more people.
Wow, thank you so much for clearing that. I didn't know that there was, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're so receptive to it. And it's really, I think about it very much like language.
Right.
Like, as human beings, we evolve, and there's been so much research that has happened in the space of addictions, and particularly the space of addictions in women and mental health in women recently, that we're learning so much more every day. And if we didn't evolve as human beings, for example, if our language never evolved, all of us would be speaking Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And
Right.
how many languages are all over the world now? And so language evolution, humanity evolution, research evolution, it's all a thing. And this is just part of that evolution. And so to answer your original question, how do we help people? Well, how the Uncovery app helps women specifically is that for people who choose, and this is for men or women, but for anybody who chooses, as you would know, to make a substantial change in their lives, leaving behind any kind of problematic behavior that is preventing us from living the lives that we want to do, that is a step of incredible courage
Hmm.
and bravery and empowerment. That is not a weakness.
Right.
And we have to step into those kinds of decisions with the mindset of, I'm leveling up here. I'm not going to be having a less than experience because I'm choosing not to drink. I'm going to be having a more than experience.
Hmm.
And so if we come at it from, okay, I drink too much, I need to address this issue. What is it that I need to do? What are the questions I need to ask myself? How do I need to build a life
Hmm.
that I don't need to numb out from? But my belief is not that that's the final destination. I believe our final destination is to build a life we don't need to be sober from, so that we're completely free from the negative impact.
Right. And the road to recovery is rough. It's not always easy for some people. It's just not easy. Um, let's talk about how can someone maintain motivation and stay committed to reducing that alcohol intake.
Yeah, so I would say the absolute, the most important thing people can have
Hmm.
is community. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because it used to drive me crazy when people would say it takes a village. I'm like, what village? Whose village? I don't have a village. What
Right.
are you talking about, village?
Right.
You know? And but then when I found myself in the situation where I felt so unbelievably alone, because I felt that I was the only one who was drinking too much. How could I? Because
Hmm.
nobody talked about it. Nobody talks about it, But here I was, performing in my life and on the outside, but on the inside, so full of shame and regret. I wasn't going to go up to my family and friends and say, I've got this drinking problem and I hate myself.
Yeah.
That was true, but I wasn't going to do that. But when we find ourselves in the space environment of other people who have the same or similar challenges or lived experience, they see us for who we are. They don't see us from the problem that we had. And
Exactly.
it's in that community and that safety, the emotional safety, that we can be honest and free and see a path forward.
Right. Right. And what are some common challenges people face during the recovery process?
Yeah. So um, I also want to offer something about the term recovery, um, and
Educate me, please. Educate me.
I'm so grateful for you and your transparency and your openness. Full stop.
Yes.
I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Yes. I'm so
Um,
interested. And listen, I'm learning as well.
we all
You
are,
know what
right?
I mean? Yeah, we're all learning, and my audience is learning. So hey.
Yeah. So there's a reason why this is called the Uncovery app and not the Recovery app,
Mhm.
um, and it, and because not everybody needs recovery. And what I mean by that is, for me, in my journey, recovery was a part of it.
Mhm.
Because there was, when I stopped drinking, it was the seventh time that I tried.
Wow.
And in fact, in all of my history, in all of the thousands of women I've worked with, I've never met a woman who had a problematic relationship with alcohol who got it right the first time.
Right.
Like, right, we screwed it up all the time.
Right.
Right. And so, but I have learned that because of this spectrum and all the research that I've done and the work that I do, um, language is so important, and how we discuss our own experience and feelings needs to be extremely open and inclusive. And it's up to us to choose the language that works for us so that we can describe our experience. And so the road to recovery, um, I believe, is the sobriety piece of the puzzle. I think there's three pieces to learning to overcome over drinking. And the first is being sober curious, like having that. I think it's a beautiful place where you're like, okay, I'm drinking too much and I got to do something about it. I have no idea what that means, but I'm interested in finding other solutions. Not that I'm ready today, but I'm interested to ask the questions. That's sober curiosity. And then there's sobriety, which is the powerful multi-year process of personal development to build a life that we don't need to numb out from. And that's often the recovery phase where we are recovering ourselves. But then there's this uncovery bit, which is building the life that we don't even need to be sober from. And
Mm.
that's uncovering who we are and who we were meant to be in the first place. And why are we here? Let's go do that.
I get it now. I finally get it. The Uncovery app.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up for me. Uh, you know what? I'm here to learn as well. So I do thank you so much for that. But for someone who may be going through something right now and they're watching this and they're struggling with alcohol, what would you say to that person?
I would, I've been there. It's tough, but it's possible um, to get to the other side. And we aren't here to live a life that our conditioning has conditioned us to believe in. We are here to live the life that we in our quiet moments, in our hearts and our souls, that little voice that says, you're meant to be doing this. That is what we get to step into when we get to the other side of over drinking. And so not only is it possible, but it's probable if you lean in.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, Lindsay Sutherland Bowl joining me on the Power Hour today. You're watching the Power Hour right here on Soul TV.
The Power Hour is brought to you by Soul TV.